Galadriel and her mysterious human friend Halbrand, Charlie Vickers, arrived at the island kingdom of Numenor in last week's third episode of The Lord of the Rings. The Rings of Power on Amazon Prime Video, but they were not given the warmest of welcomes. But the sea captain Elendil turned out to be an unexpected ally. An enemy named Adar, Joseph Maywell, who is destroying the Southlands with orc tunnels, was introduced in the previous episode. Soon, the elf Arondir will be brought before him. Will the Southlands inhabitants make it through the impending darkness? And when will Sauron finally show up? When a catastrophic rumbling is heard in Numenor, Queen Regent Muriel, Cynthia Adai Robinson, blesses some of the kids from the island kingdom. The kingdom is then struck by a huge wave that quickly engulfs the palace and Muriel. The Queen Regent then realizes it was a dream and wakes up. There are grumblings about Halbrand and Galadriel on the city's streets. Tristan Gravel portrays Pharazôn, who interacts with people on the street and discusses statecraft with his son Keeman, Leon Wadham. Elves are criticized for being present in the kingdom and Muriel's friendship with an elf. However, Pharazôn's powerful speech quells the opposition as he demonstrates his oratory prowess and offers the crowd drinks. Ema Horvath's character, Irian, the daughter of Elendil, is approached by Keeman as she listens intently among the crowd. With the scrolls and warnings, Galadriel and Elendil pay a visit to Muriel, noting her belief that Halbrand is the rightful heir to the Southlands throne. Galadriel advises Muriel to join the Southlands and enlist Minor's assistance in the conflict with Sauron. Galadriel requests to see the Queen Regent's father after Muriel declines her request, which sparks a disagreement. She is detained in the cell beside Halbrand. Isildur, Maxim Baldry, who was on the boat for his sailing cadet test, heard a voice calling his name again and decided to leave the group. As a result, his friends Antamo, Anthony Crum, Anne Volandel, Alex Tarrant were also disqualified from the group. Following their argument, Isildur leaves the group. Arondir sees Adar hold a dying orc and kill it in the orc camp in the Southlands. Adar recalls his previous elf life. When asked why the orcs refer to him as father, Arondir asks Adar. Adar replies that Arondir has been fed many lies. Adar admits that he is not yet a god. He permits Arondir to deliver a letter to his former watchtower. Treadwell, Peter Tate, and Waldrig, Jeff Morrell from the Southlands speak with Bronwyn, Nazan and Banyati in the watchtower after realizing they are running low on food supplies. Theo, Bronwyn's son, Tyro Muhafadin, suggests they smuggle supplies back to Turharad village, but Bronwyn advises foraging first. Theo is irate that he did nothing. Theo returns to Turharad alone and gathers food supplies before joining his friend Rowan, Ian Blackburn. Theo goes into a tavern by himself to get more food after Rowan declines when the door shuts. When an orc attacker appears as the sun sets, Rowan runs back to the watchtower, leaving Theo inside. Theo takes out the cursed hilt and uses it to burn himself. This causes more of the weapon to manifest as a sword, and he uses it to slice off the orc's finger. As orcs raid the village, Theo runs away and hides in a well. The orc believes he has located Theo as he peers down the well, but Theo hides in the water. Elrond, Robert Arameo, and Lord Celebrimber, Charles Edwards, converse while sitting in the city of Elven Smiths in the Eregion. They talk about how Elrond's father once predicted that Celebrimber's future would one day be in the hands of his son. Elrond suspects Prince Durin IV of concealing information from him, which leads Celebrimber to advise that he look into the matter. Elrond asks what is going on with Princess Dissa, Sophia Namvit, in the Khazad-dûm mines and senses that something is being kept a secret. When Elrond explores the magnificent mines, he encounters a suspicious Prince Durin IV, Owain Arthur, who swears Elrond to secrecy and shows him Mithril, a miraculous ore with extraordinary strength and properties that has the potential to change the lives of dwarves. Stronger than gold, the prince gives Elrond some as a sign of friendship before a collapse causes chaos in the mines, forcing them to descend to save 4 dwarves. In Numenor, Keeman and Irian converse, get close, and even decide to have dinner together. Halbrand counsels Galadriel, who is pacing in the dungeons, to ascertain the Queen Regent's greatest fear and present a solution to allay it. Galadriel understands that Tar Palantir, Muriel's overthrown father and the king in the tower, is the source of the fear. When Pharazôn shows up, he says that the Queen Regent has made the decision to send Galadriel back to the elves with an armed guard in tow. Galadriel is freed, but she then escapes and assaults the security. Halbrand counsels Pharazôn to release her, so he does. When chaos breaks out over Galadriel's escape, Irian spots her brother Isildur drinking on the way home from dinner, and he tells her what happened. When Galadriel enters the tower, she discovers Muriel inside, telling her to leave Numenor willingly, while the sick Tarpalanter, Ken Blackburn, is lying in bed. Galadriel apologizes after being moved by the scene and promises to keep the king's identity a secret. Galadriel questions Muriel's lack of fidelity to the elven ways in contrast to her father. The Queen Regent gave an explanation of how her father's ardent beliefs led to a rebellion and the agreement for her to take over as regent in his place. Galadriel is then shown a palantir by Muriel. Galadriel touches it and sees Numenor being destroyed in the future by a great wave, noting that her arrival marks the beginning of the vision of Numenor's destruction. Galadriel warns that the kingdom's efforts to avert this fate could actually hasten it. The Queen Regent does not think it is possible, despite Galadriel's pleas for Muriel to demonstrate faith rather than succumb to fear. Food has run out at the watchtower, but Rowan returns with supplies, and Bronwyn observes Theo's absence. The orcs hunt down Theo in Tirharad, but he has hidden from them. Theo tries to leave the town as they fight amongst themselves, but an orc finds him and starts to attack him. They are pursued by orcs as they flee through the forest after Arondr kills the creature. Theo is instructed to flee as Arondr fires arrows at their pursuers. As Arondr pursues them, while firing at the orcs in their rear, Bronwyn arrives and flees with Theo. Arondr, Bronwyn, and Theo arrive at a field where they are saved by the rising sun, which stops the orcs from pursuing them. Princess Dissa conducts a ritual for the dwarves in Khazad-dûm in the hopes that they will survive and return. Dissa believes they wouldn't have died if Durin IV hadn't gone down there with Elrond, but Elrond claims she was devoted to her husband. King Durin III is closing down the mine when King Durin IV returns and finds that he and all the miners are still alive, infuriating the prince. Elrond remembers the admirable deeds and reward of his father Eärendil and how he could emulate him, but he also laments the loss of his father and advises the prince to spend as little time as possible with his own. Elrond is asked by Dissa how he first met the prince. Elrond said he saved Durin from 3 trolls, but Durin had claimed he had saved Elrond from 2 trolls. Prince Durin IV visits his father and apologizes for being obstinate. According to the king, Peter Mullen, when a new Dwarven king is crowned, he adopts the thoughts and memories of his ancestors. However, the king also points out that there is nothing to forgive because he is always with him, even in anger. The prince reveals that Elrond has extended an invitation to him and Lindon along with what appear to be sincere messages from High King Gil-galad, but both father and son suspect there may be more going on. To go to Lindon, the king instructs his son. Bronwyn thanks Arondr for rescuing Theo at the watchtower. The message from Adar is revealed by Arondr: the people of these ones must pledge allegiance or he will come for them all. When Waldreg, who owned the hilt and whose barn it was in, approaches Theo, he pulls the evil hilt from the barn and reveals that he bears the same mark as when he held it. The elderly man informs him that it is the beautiful servant Sauron's mark and that he is coming back. According to Waldreg, Sauron's re-emergence was heralded by the star's descent from the sky. One of the orcs approaches Adar in the camp and says they have found it and that it is in the tower. Galadriel boards a ship in Numenor's harbor, makes eye contact with Muriel, and is bid farewell by Elendil. The people will be relieved and will be assembling for her announcement, Pharazôn informs the Queen Regent. While Elendil watches conflictedly, the pair departs. The white tree's leaves begin to fall as Muriel moves, just as they did in the Palantir's end of the world visions, suggesting that doom is unavoidably approaching. Muriel addresses her people in the throne room of the palace, explaining that the leaves represent the tears of the Valar in their judgment and that it is time for everyone to act. Halbrand can be seen unimpeded on the city walls. Muriel makes a statement that she will personally accompany Galadriel to Middle-earth and help the Southlands as she leaves the throne room. Isildur's friends Antomo and Valandil lead the group of volunteers to fight in the Southlands after Elendil reads the Queen Regent's proclamation there. To the surprise of his father and Irian, Isildur then offers to join them. Many people in Numenor start to offer their services to help Muriel and Galadriel and travel to Middle-earth.